Ethan Miller was not special. That was the painful truth he had accepted by the age of 27. He wasn't born rich. He wasn't exceptionally talented. He wasn't lucky, and nobody was waiting to give him a chance. He lived in a small, forgettable apartment on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio, the kind of place where the walls were thin, the lights flickered, and the neighbors never learned your name. Every morning his alarm rang at 5:30 a.m., not because he was ambitious, but because survival demanded it. By 6:15 he was already on the bus. Same seat, same tired faces, same silence. People stared at their phones as if scrolling could pull them out of their lives. Ethan did the same, except he wasn't scrolling for entertainment. He was scrolling to escape the quiet thought that haunted him every day. Is this it? At his job, Ethan worked as a warehouse associate for a large retail distribution company. The job description said logistics assistant, but the reality was lifting boxes, scanning barcodes, and being replaceable. Very replaceable. The supervisors never remembered his name. The managers only spoke to him when something went wrong, and promotions always went to someone else. Younger, louder, more confident. Every paycheck disappeared as fast as it came. Rent, groceries, student loans, bus pass. At the end of the month, there was nothing left but exhaustion. At night, Ethan would lie on his bed, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun endlessly, just like his thoughts. He had dreams once. Not the dramatic kind, no private jets or mansions. He just wanted control. Control over his time, control over his future, control over his own worth. But somewhere between rejection emails, unpaid internships, and "we'll get back to you," those dreams had gone quiet. Not dead, just quiet. One Friday evening, after a 10-hour shift, Ethan stopped by a gas station to grab cheap dinner, a microwave sandwich and a soda. As he waited in line, he noticed a man in front of him wearing a clean suit, talking confidently on the phone. "Yes, we'll finalize the deal next week," the man said casually. "No rush, we're already ahead." Ethan felt something twist inside his chest. Not jealousy. Something worse. Distance. Like that life existed on a completely different planet. That night, something changed. Not dramatically, not magically, but enough to matter. Ethan opened his old laptop. It took 5 minutes just to boot up. The screen flickered. The fan screamed. But it worked. He didn't know exactly what he was looking for. He just knew he couldn't keep living on autopilot. He searched. How to change your life at 30. How to escape a 9-to-5. How to build skills with no money. Article after article promised overnight success. Just wake up at 4 a.m. Just think positive. Just start a business. Ethan laughed bitterly. If it were that easy, everyone would be free. He almost closed the laptop. Almost. Then he found a simple sentence in a forum post written by someone anonymous. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start with what you have and let progress teach you confidence. That line stayed with him. He didn't suddenly feel motivated. He didn't feel inspired. He felt tired. But for the first time in years, he also felt curious. The next morning, Saturday, Ethan woke up without an alarm. Old habit. He made coffee and sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the chipped wood surface. What do I actually have? He asked himself. He had a laptop, barely working, internet, time at night, a mind that still wanted more. That was it. No mentors, no money, no connections. But it was something. Ethan remembered something his father once said before passing away. You don't need the whole staircase, just the next step. Ethan chose one skill, writing, not because he loved it, not because he was good at it, but because it required no permission. That night after work, instead of collapsing into bed, he opened a blank document. The cursor blinked. 5 minutes passed. Nothing. 10 minutes, still nothing. Then he typed one sentence. I don't know where my life is going, but I know I can't stay here. He stared at it. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't impressive, but it was honest. And for the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel invisible because someone was finally listening. Himself. He wrote for 30 minutes, then 40, then an hour. No one read it. No one applauded. But something inside him shifted. That night, Ethan slept deeper than he had in months. Not because his life had changed, but because his direction had, and that was the first step. Ethan didn't wake up transformed. Monday morning arrived like it always did, with an alarm that felt too loud and a body that felt too tired. The warehouse still smelled like dust and cardboard. The supervisor still didn't say his name. Nothing on the outside had changed, except Ethan had made a promise. A small one. He promised himself that every night, no matter how exhausted he felt, he would write for at least 30 minutes. No results required. No audience needed. Just consistency. The first week was brutal. Some nights his eyes burned from staring at the screen. Other nights his mind felt empty. There were moments when he typed nonsense just to fill the page. But he showed up. 30 minutes turned into 40. 40 turned into an hour. Not because he was disciplined by nature, but because he was afraid of going back to feeling completely stuck. At work, nothing improved. In fact, things got worse. One afternoon, his supervisor pulled him aside. "You're falling behind," she said, checking a clipboard. "If this continues, we'll have to review your position." Ethan nodded, apologized, and went back to stacking boxes. But inside, a quiet panic spread. He couldn't afford to lose this job, and he couldn't afford to stay here forever. That tension followed him home. He wrote about it. He wrote about fear, about feeling behind, about watching other people move forward while he stayed in place. He didn't try to sound smart. He didn't try to sound motivational. He told the truth. After 2 weeks, Ethan made a mistake. He shared his writing online. Not with friends. Not with family. With strangers. He created an anonymous account and posted one short piece late at night. He expected nothing. The next morning, there were 3 likes. 3! And 1 comment. "This feels real." "Keep going." Ethan stared at the screen longer than he should have. That comment shouldn't have mattered. But it did. Because it proved something important. Someone out there felt the same way. He kept posting. Once a week. Then twice. No growth. No viral moment. Just quiet progress. Then doubt arrived. One night, after a particularly exhausting shift, Ethan opened his laptop and froze. A thought hit him hard. What if this is pointless? He imagined months passing. Years passing. Still working the same job. Still writing to no one. The thought made his chest feel tight. That night, he didn't write. The next night, he didn't either. 3 days passed. Then a week, and the old feeling crept back in. Heavy, hopeless, familiar. On Sunday evening, Ethan sat on his bed, staring at the dark screen. He realized something uncomfortable. It wasn't failure that scared him. It was effort without guaranteed reward. Most people don't quit because they fail. They quit because success feels too far away to touch. Ethan opened the document again. He didn't write something inspiring. He wrote one sentence. "I almost quit this week." That sentence broke the silence. He wrote about doubt, about fear, about wanting proof before committing. And as he wrote, he understood something important. Discipline wasn't about being strong. It was about being honest enough to continue anyway. Weeks turned into months. Ethan's life became quiet in a different way. No dramatic changes, no applause. But routines formed. Wake up, work, write, sleep. At the warehouse, people started noticing. Not because he talked more, but because he complained less. He listened more, observed more. He started learning how systems worked, how inventory flowed, how mistakes happened. He took notes. Not because anyone asked him to, but because curiosity had returned. One evening, his supervisor noticed. "You're different lately," she said. "More focused." Ethan smiled politely. He didn't explain, because explaining would have cheapened it. Online, his writing slowly improved. Not in numbers, in clarity. He stopped trying to impress. Stopped chasing motivation. He focused on one reader. The version of himself from 6 months ago. That reader needed honesty, not hype. One post did better than the rest. Not viral, not famous, but enough. Messages arrived. "I thought I was the only one. This sounds like my life. Thank you for writing this." Ethan felt something new. Responsibility. If his words mattered to even one person, quitting was no longer just about him. Still, doubt didn't disappear. Some nights he felt like a fraud. Other nights he felt behind everyone else online. He compared himself constantly. Creators with better writing, better stories, better lives. Comparison almost killed his momentum. Until one night he wrote something that changed his perspective. I'm not competing with their results. I'm competing with my own consistency. That sentence became his anchor. He stopped chasing growth. He chased days. Did I show up today? Did I write today? Did I learn today? That was enough. 6 months in, Ethan's life looked the same on paper. Same apartment, same job, same paycheck. But inside, he was no longer waiting. He was building. Quietly, imperfectly, relentlessly. And without realizing it, he was getting closer to a moment that would test everything he had worked for. A moment where effort would finally demand courage. But that moment hadn't arrived yet. For now, Ethan kept writing and kept going. Because explaining would have cheapened it. Online, his writing slowly improved. Not in numbers, in clarity. He stopped trying to impress. Stopped chasing motivation. He focused on one reader. The version of himself from 6 months ago. That reader needed honesty, not hype. One post did better than the rest. Not viral, not famous, but enough. Messages arrived. I thought I was the only one. This sounds like my life. Thank you for writing this. Ethan felt something new, responsibility. If his words mattered to even one person, quitting was no longer just about him. Still, doubt didn't disappear. Some nights he felt like a fraud. Other nights he felt behind everyone else online. He compared himself constantly. Creators with better writing, better stories, better lives. Comparison almost killed his momentum. Until one night he wrote something that changed his perspective. I'm not competing with their results. I'm competing with my own consistency. That sentence became his anchor. He stopped chasing growth. He chased days. Did I show up today? Did I write today? Did I learn today? That was enough. 6 months in, Ethan's life looked the same on paper. Same apartment, same job, same paycheck. But inside, he was no longer waiting. He was building. Quietly, imperfectly, relentlessly. And without realizing it, he was getting closer to a moment that would test everything he had worked for. A moment where effort would finally demand courage. But that moment hadn't arrived yet. For now, Ethan kept writing and kept going.